Hey Sainers, welcome back to the Saints TV YouTube channel. Welcome to a very big video. I haven't done much draft talk, if at all, on the channel so far, and I thought to kind of get that going, I'd go pretty big and go with the number one man this time of year. He's actually you've had a big couple of months actually, Cal, but I appreciate you coming on. You're the main man when it comes to the draft, and pretty much the main man when it came to the trade period as well. Thanks for jumping on today to talk draft.
No troubles at all. Looking forward to it. It's a big couple of months for everybody. Sorry for looking like I'm in a toilet cubicle. I'm actually in a little pod here at AFL House that is designed for these type of meetings and catch ups. So yeah, looking forward to the chat.
How's it been on your end the last few months in preparation to obviously next week, and it's going to be a big couple of days for a lot of clubs and obviously yourself. What's the planning from your side getting ready for something like this?
It's busy. Like we used to probably have a bigger gap between trade and draft, but it's been condensed now and compressed a little bit. So it comes before obviously the AFLW Grand Final, and they're keen to get that through there, and then obviously have to wait for the boys to finish their exams. But certainly it's felt like this year there's probably been less time between trade and end of draft period as well. So lots happening, and my period personally is just trying to work the phones really and see what's happening. We've obviously got the Phantom draft that we do next week, which is making me nervous, which always does about a week out, and I'll probably even a day out and an hour out. But so that's next Monday, I think we're dropping that, and then a late mail edition on that on Tuesday. But my process is just make as many calls and try and get to the bottom of as much as you can. But then we also have our shows. So yeah, we've got our countdown shows next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before the big night on Wednesday. So looking forward to next week for sure.
How do you realize that there is a little bit of pressure on your side? People really do live for your Phantom drafts. They're waiting for your tweets. They really rely on your information and your information alone for this time. Do you feel that?
Yeah. I'm aware. I'm aware. There's people think it's gospel at that early rung of the draft, and look, you hope to get as close to gospel as possible. There's probably been different times over the years where I've had some doubts. Last year, kind of by the time we got to draft on, I was pretty confident that the 10 names were how it was going to be. But then I think back, like, 6 days out from last year, I wasn't as confident. So I was kind of trying to remind myself of that the closer you get, obviously the more information starts to come out. But yeah, I put as much pressure. I sound like a footballer here, but I put as much pressure on myself as anyone else trying to put pressure on the picks. But yeah, I'm aware that there's a sense that if we say it, it's right, which is not always the case. But fingers crossed, hey.
Yeah, well, you got ours pretty much spot on. I think you got Turu and Travalia last year, so we thank you for that. What's busier for you, before we get into the Saints-specific stuff, what is busier for you? Is it trade period? Because we saw the AFL, they did a really good behind-the-scenes sort of doco on that, and that was good to see that insight. Is the trade period more hectic on the night, or is draft? Like, I guess on the night, you're pretty much done, right? You can just sit back and relax a little bit, in a way.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, draft nights... I'm excited on draft night to see how it all pans out, and you get to know the boys coming through as well. So you're excited for them and seeing where they all head and where they go. But trade period, I would say, is it's far more competitive in the whole process of it. It's far more minute by minute, every second counts type of thing. Whereas it's not really that way in terms of the lead up to the draft. So yeah, hectic. The hectic levels, I would say, are 10 out of 10 on trade, and maybe it gets to 8.5, 9 next week when you've sort of put those final pieces together of the Phantom draft. But yeah, the trade period is exhausting, but probably more exhilarating as well.
Yeah, obviously you are on Saints TV, so Saints talk is going to come up. We've been very vocal in this space when it comes to the draft in terms of the academies, in terms of all of that stuff. Andrew Bassett's obviously led the charge on that front. Have you noticed any sort of shift in strategy this year in terms of a club's planning for the future drafts and not really this one? Is there more chances of picks coming into this draft? Is there, eyes on Tassie? Have you felt like a shift compared to maybe previous drafts that you would have planned for?
Well, there's actually not that much pick movement this year, which is
Yeah.
testament to a couple of things. One is that clubs are wanting to hold their picks on for next year's draft, which I think is better, but also there's some good free agents and players that might be available next year. So it's holding those picks to be able to be in the market for those players. And the other part is it's just not as exciting a draft to try and tap into. And that's why Carlton with pick 9 and 11, Gold Coast with 15 and 18, Brisbane with 17, 23 and beyond have found it more difficult than I think they would have in previous years to find trading partners for those picks. Now, getting back to your original point with Andrew Bassett's and the footy club's really strong views around the academy system being tighter and more rigorous, we're seeing that actually come to fruition here. And it's becoming harder for clubs to match multiple picks from this year. This will be the first year of the new system coming in terms of the point system being upgraded, I'd say. And we'll see the play out of that for the first time in 2025. And then next year, of course, it's getting even more difficult with the changes coming through for next year. So, yeah, I think that's a good point. Like the ripple effect of that noise, for want of a better word, is probably seeing it for the first time in this year's draft period for sure.
So St Kilda's got pick 50, 65, 86 and 104. Obviously, those will come in with some bids taking place. The main talking point will be Kai Fincher, but straight off the bat, because you did mention Carlton wanting to trade the picks and they're finding it a bit difficult, I guess we've been kind of linked to that pick 11 in a way for Jevon Philippo. Saints fans obviously love Mateus. We would love to have Jevon on board as well. What are your thoughts on that? That seems unlikely on my end. I'd imagine Carlton would want our next first, but we would want to hold 26. Maybe the 2027 first could come into play because, like you said, there are free agents next year. Zach Butters is one of them. Zach Bailey's another one. Sam Walsh. Yeah, exactly. So we would want to hold that 2026 for maybe that reason and maybe look for a 27 to come in for Jevon if possible.
I don't think the F1 will be thrown in to get Jevon. Like, I think there's a possibility he's available a little bit deeper than that anyway. So I don't think that would be required to if a club is trying to trade in to get him. Now, I'm finding him difficult to place in a draft point of view. I think he's somewhere 15, 20 onwards, which opens the door to use a future pick to do that. That's not a future first. Now, and that could be I don't think the Saints from memory have their future second. I can't really remember now off the top of my head, but I feel like they don't have the full hand for next year. Is that the Liam Ryan deal? I think maybe.
Yeah, that was.
So the future second probably would have been the way to get back in, but could it be a future second? I don't know, but I don't think the F1 is probably in the mix for that, or really required to be able to make a tilted in the way things are playing out for Jevon. And he's been a little bit out of sight, out of mind with his injury through the championship. So that maybe is a point, but obviously highly confident, believes in himself, and can do some exciting things on the field for sure as a half forward midfield option. But at the moment, there's a possibility that he does get through a little bit deeper. So that's one to keep an eye out for.
So you're telling us there's a chance, Cal? You're telling us there's a chance?
I'm Lloyd Christmasing it, yeah.
Because I think you had him at pick 18 in your latest. So hopefully he can move on from there.
That was my rankings. I think the reality of where the actual pick comes for him is probably somewhere beyond that a little bit, I think. I don't look, it only takes one. And I haven't found exactly the one yet. I'm not sure exactly where I'll be putting him, but I'm a fan of his talent for sure.
Yeah. Kai Fincher is obviously the other one. I think from my perspective, I think he'd be beyond 36. If he does, then it's pretty standard, pretty easy for us to get him. Do you imagine that would be the case? That should be a fairly easy thing to get done?
I like Kai as a player. He turns up and has a crack every time. I thought his second half of the year was really good when he went into the midfield, did some work, obviously, with the Sandringham side at VFL level 2.
Yeah.
And he's ready to go in a few fronts. Like, he's physically mature and can play a couple of different positions. Where he actually fits, I think there's going to be some interest in him in the 30s. So if it's Before that sort of 36, 37 mark, obviously that creates more of a question for the Saints, doesn't it? Because as you said rightly, you can sort of just match with your next pick after 37. That's that sort of bingo point. So I think there'll be a little bit of interest before then. How the cards fall, I'm not exactly sure, but I think the starting point for Kai will be late 20s to early 30s. So depending who else is available, that might make for a decision St Kilda has to make.
And I think we've made it pretty clear that we won't stretch it. So if he does go early 20s or something, we probably won't take him.
Yeah, and the
Because then
picks
I think
will come in as well. Like, your
yeah,
50 is going to come in a fair bit. If you look through the order and some of the picks that are going to collapse within that, Gold Coast have a lot of selections, Brisbane, Sydney as well. So depending what they do trade wise, but the bids are going to collapse that pick in a fair bit.
yeah, but we wouldn't go into a deficit. We wouldn't want to affect next year's first at all.
Well, the rules are that if you go into a deficit on your second round pick, then it just comes off your second round pick. So it wouldn't
Okay,
actually
yeah,
affect your
perfect.
first. So, but in saying that, do you want to go into the deficit anyway? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. So those are two of the main talking points. And then after that, I think Dalrymple's done some pretty good jobs in the last couple of years. You would know as well in the later picks. We've gotten Hugo Garcia, Boxshaw's been another one. They're looking really good as well. Do you see? For me, there's still positional needs of key forward depth, and then obviously a small rebounding defender. Jackson Voss is one of those. In any of those positions, do you think around that in the 50 odds? Would there be any sliders or any names that you could mention that we should keep an eye out for?
There are, but I'm going to keep those names for the Phantom Draft on Monday. So sorry about that. But no, I think in that part of the draft, there actually is going to be some decent players. And because of the compressed nature of this year's group, and again, like the picks coming in a little bit, I'm relatively confident on that sort of 30 to 50 mark, spitting out a few names that we don't expect to be there for a start, because
Yeah.
there's a very wide variance of views around this year's draft. So I think a club, let's say that pick comes in at 42 or something, I don't know, 42, I think you could get a player that you probably expect to or rank at 25 on your board. So that the way that clubs are viewing this draft very differently, one club to the next, I think that's a reality. So I don't think it's a terrible part of the draft to be in this year. And yeah, I expect that there'll be some players there that are worth grabbing. Look, Jackson Voss, I'm not sure if he gets a go. I haven't heard him linked to anyone as a VFL prospect, obviously, but he certainly has that rebound element to his game.
Yeah, there's other names like Emmett, Greaves, and Sharp, but I don't think. I think those,
Nah, not
particularly the
Sharp.
last two, they're not going to happen.
I mean, Greaves could dip a little bit. He did run a good 2 kilometre time trial today, which was good to see. He had to do that to force his way into sort of some calculations after missing that combine run. But Sharp will be pretty early.
We've got a couple of hypotheticals here. Just want to tap into your brain a little bit more before you go. What's the
Sure.
most interesting draft day scenario you could see St Kilda getting involved in? If it was just the biggest headline, what could St Kilda do that you'd be like, wow? Because I guess we did that in the trade period. Are people maybe expecting St Kilda to just surprise again, in the draft?
Never-ending list of surprises, isn't it? At St Kilda. I think that the biggest surprise would be, or the most interesting element or scenario would probably be using a future first-round pick to get involved, and that'd take, I think, a player who is so unexpected to get through, slipping, and then St Kilda saying, "Well, here it is." In saying all of that, I mean, I'm interested in your expectations of what St Kilda can produce next year. They'd be hoping, I'm sure, to be in the top 8 or top 6. So their pick that's become valuable over the last few years, they'd be expecting wouldn't be as valuable next year. And I think the rival expectation of that would be as well that, that could be a top 8 pick next year. So maybe isn't as valuable as it's been in the past few years.
Yep. And last question, just based on your experience and obviously interviewing a lot of coaches and being in this space, how much does a club's current coaching style, or like Ross Lyon's coaching style and focus, influence the final call on what type of player we might draft on the night?
Have to, yeah, a lot. And that's not just for Ross, that's for a lot of coaches. I think particularly coaches who have been around a long time, who recruiting departments know exactly how they're going to play or want them to play. Yeah, I think that definitely comes into things really strongly. And it doesn't exactly shape the final call, but it does shape the way that the recruiting teams look at players. Like, do they like runners? Do they like the types who follow up? Do they like this certain type of character in the personality of a player? So, yeah, I think they build out the framework of the culture from a playing and also off-field point of view. And then the recruiters go and find the players that are going to fit into that model. So, yeah, obviously recruiters have the long-term view. Coaches generally have a pretty short-term fix, but there's no doubt that in the case of Ross, but also most senior coaches who've been around for a fair while, their views on how the game's played is a significant part of how their sort of club lists, I would say, in terms of draft forms, are shaped.
Yep. Well, I'll let you go, Cal. I know you got some phone calls there and you got a lot on your plate, but I appreciate you taking 15 minutes of your time to just chat draft and chat St Kilda as well. So thanks so much for jumping on.
No, anytime. Loved it. And well done on the show throughout the year.
Thanks, Cal. Chat to you soon, mate.